Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to GarbAugust, a monthly event here on BookTube dedicated to reading trash in the month of August, created by Ollie at Criminali, and hosted by a dirty baker's dozen of the most disreputable BookTube channels on the face of the earth. And I am one of those channels, very proudly. I am one of the co-hosts for GarbAugust, and I have been reading widely in garbage as August has progressed, keeping in mind discussions that we hosts have had on our GarbAugust Voxer group. I'm part of the GarbAugust Voxer group. I also have a Voxer account of my own. You're welcome to Voxer me at any time. I have it right down below. But the Voxer group is one of the things that we've been doing in that group is trying to hash out what garbage is. Are there any sure telltale signs? I made a video just recently about a few of those that I thought, but there are lots of others, lots of potential telltale signs for that something you hold in your hands might be garbage. It's a discussion that I would like to have, not just on Voxer, but in a shared video. My chances are not good in getting my co-hosts to line up. Some of them are mewling introverts, quite a few of them are busy with jobs and family and obligations and pants. It's going to be hard to line up even one conversation about garbage, and that I'd love to have a few. Not only one that diagnoses what garbage is and is not, but also another multi-voice discussion on people's personal history with garbage. I have a million questions. We could talk for an hour easily in either one of those. I will work on it still, but one of those discussions was kind of fun. It was, can we come up with a long tongue-in-cheek list of categories of signs, sort of yardsticks, of whether or not something that you're reading might be trash. I have kind of thought in that list, is the book number 20 in a series? Does it have weapons, guns on the cover? Is it a movie tie-in? Does it have ads on the inside of the paperback, etc., etc.? Oh, I have often thought, does it have a large killer animal in it, for instance? When I've been looking at that list, I've thought, I bet it would be possible to come up with an exception to every one of those characteristics. I bet there's a genuinely good book that has every one of those characteristics, not all together, but each one of them individually. I haven't done that yet. I'm not sure that it's possible. I might be playing into the hands of one of the biggest problems with discussing garbage, especially, not to ruffle any feathers here, but with men of a certain age. One of the biggest problems with discussing garbage is that they like it so much that they start to say it isn't garbage. that not only invalidates a monthly event designed to celebrate garbage, but also invalidates several of the rules of simple common sense. We must not abandon the idea that garbage exists. If we do, where does an event like GarbAugust end up? I've wondered whether or not you could make a case for, like, for instance, is there a novel with a giant killer animal that's actually good? First one that springs to my mind is Moby Dick, which is not only good, but great, a great American novel. I wonder if it would be true with a whole bunch of other things as well, like, for instance, to get to today's video, shifters, shapeshifters. Is there any such thing as one of the yardsticks, one of the signals that we've shown, that we've come up with on a list for GarbAugust, is if there's a shifter in the book, it's probably garbage. It's probably trash. So is there a book that has shapeshifters in it that isn't trash? First thing that came to my mind was my own favorite book of all time, Ovid's Metamorphoses. But another book that came to mind was Dracula. I wonder if it would be possible to find an exception to every one of the characteristics that we came up with, and many more besides. But today, today we're not in any danger of blurring the categories. Today we're doing shifting. I was doing sword and sorcery for a couple of days and thought, if I do much more of this, I'm going to start to heave a heavy sigh of resignation at the beginning of a book. That's never a good sign. You must never do that. So I moved on to shifting, to a shifting romance. This is by Eve Langley. One of you sent an ebook like this to me, so you're as guilty as I am. This is called Polar Baird. Polar Baird. And the shifter involved is a polar bear shifter. He's a polar bear shifter. He's from a place called Kodiak Point, which is just chock-a-block with shifters of all kinds. There's a a snowy owl shifter that takes place in the Arctic Circle, if you didn't catch on to that. A moose shifter. And I don't know if there's a ptarmigan shifter, but there's a polar bear shifter as well. And the plot, such as it is, this author has written a lot of these books, and in her own defense, I should point out that this is book 3 in a series. The Kodiak Point series is book 3. I have not read nor had I even heard of the series before I read this one. It's possible that the first 2 books in this series unlock some kind of magic in book number 3. I find it hard to believe. This was genuinely trash. This was genuinely bad. It was poorly, dumbly written. It's got F-bombs on every page. It's got trite, tired rhetorical constructions. It's a first draft, in other words. Well, no matter how many times the author has worked on it, it's a first draft. Oh my God, am I blocking my own little were schnauzer? Can we do this on the other side and still get the visual? Yeah, that's good enough. You don't want to miss Frida, no, especially not for something like this. I did not bother to go and read Volume 1 or Volume 2 in the Kodiak Point series. I just went in straight with Polar Baird, which kicks us off with Vicky, a young woman named Vicky, who joins an Arctic expedition to write a paper of some kind. She seems to be in some vague way interested in Arctic animals. And she's also fleeing a dark domestic past. And it's trying to find her. That domestic past is not done with her. There are people hunting for her. And maybe they are familiar with hunting grouse or pheasant or ptarmigan. Because that's about the IQ we're dealing with here. Vicky is an imbecile. I don't know if that's supposed to make her endearing. I'm not really up on my shifter romance porn. I'm not sure if that's supposed to make her a heartwarming character. To me, it only made her irritating, just from start to finish. The start part being when she gets to her Arctic expedition, decides, enough of these experts. I want to go out looking for animals. Alone, in the Arctic tundra. And the animal that she's most looking for are polar bears. I'm not sure how many of my GarbAugust's co-hosts have ever actually met a polar bear in the wild. I have. You do not have any idea how big they are. They are bigger than grizzly bears, and so much smarter. The one saving grace you usually have when dealing with bears, whether it's black bears or grizzly bears in the lower 48, is that they are dumb. They are creatures of rage or impulse, and they have the attention span of a gnat. So if you encounter one on a trail, you're probably going to be okay. Even a grizzly bear is probably going to lose interest in you or just forget that it wanted to disembowel you or whatever. Polar bears are different. They are long-term planners. They are stalkers. They are much more intelligent than any other kind of bear. And they're absolutely enormous. They're 10 feet tall. They're immensely powerful. And unlike with grizzly bears that sort of give themselves away, or black bears that sort of do the same, polar bears have something in common with another enormous animal that I have met many times that you wouldn't expect, which is stealth. A polar bear can sneak up on you disarmingly easily. They can get within 10 feet of you without you knowing it. And the animal they share that with, believe it or not, those of you who maybe have experience, I don't know how many of you do, is African elephants. You would not expect that an animal the size of a tiny house could sneak up on you, but elephants can. African elephants can move soundlessly when they want to, and they often want to. Polar bears are the same way. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if an imbecile like Vicky managed to escape from her butterfly net keepers and go out wandering looking for polar bears, if she found one, she'd be seal meat in about 5 seconds. It doesn't happen. Instead, she does find a polar bear. In fact, she bumps right into one. But it turns out it's a hunky shifter. It's a were polar bear named Gene, who's a bad boy, bent on revenge. He's bent on revenging himself against his ne'er-do-well, shape-shifting brothers who have nothing but contempt for him. And he's gruff and growly and sort of bearishly sexy, and he wants nothing to do with Vicky, understandably, because she's a twit, but also to set up the romance parody here, which is that, you know, they'll want nothing to do with each other, but they'll both be attracted to each other, won't be able to get each other out of their mind, that sort of trite nonsense. That starts to happen immediately. Gene does not try to eat Vicky. I have no idea if he does eat people. We're told that the little cabin that he has protects him from the elements and also allows him to store food that he filches from local communities. Why a were polar bear would need to do that, I don't have any idea. Does the polar bear suddenly grow a new digestive system? If the were polar bear eats a full-grown seal, doesn't that set Gene up for a month? I would hope that it would, because his own digestive system is much longer and much finer and much less robust than a polar bear's. I would assume that much fat and meat would set Gene up forever. But the main thing I was concentrating on when what's her name again? Eve Langley is going on and on trying to make Gene into a really pouty bad boy of a dangerous anti-hero. The main thing I was thinking of while I was reading all of those scenes is that Gene is short for Eugene. It's not a name on its own. It's short for Eugene. Our bad boy were polar bear is named Eugene. He's practically pushing up his horn-rimmed glasses with tape on the bridge in my mind's eye. And naturally, as they become sort of bonded with each other, they are both drawn into the dangers of each other's world. She is drawn into the quest for revenge that he is on, that I guess is well-grounded in the first two books. I gather that Gene appears in the first two books, and now he's getting a book of his own. She's drawn into that world, and he's drawn into the world of the real human world that is stalking Vicky, and it somehow manages not to have got a clean shot at her when it seems like she would be baffled by a porta-johny. Somehow that manages that they get involved in each other's lives. I was not involved in the book at all. None of it seemed self-evident to me, I guess is the word I want, and I think the reason for that is because this is fan service. I'm pretty sure that at this point in the Kodiak Point books, Eve Langley is simply writing to her fans. Nothing wrong with that at all. And good for her if she's making any kind of a living doing this in self-publishing. Great. If she's managed to get devoted fans who love this series and are coming back for more, maybe they have, as is the way with traditionally published romances, been yearning for 2 books for Gene to get a book of his own. That's often the way that in romance series books, a side character will spur dozens and dozens of letters to the author or the publisher saying, please give this side character a book of his own. Maybe that's the case. If she has managed to do that in the self-publishing world with this series, more power to her. If that's true, if that explains the sort of fan servicing that was going on throughout here, then maybe that means I need to read the first 2 books to be all caught up in that. But honestly, there wasn't enough going on here to make me really feel like doing that. So my GarbAugust's entry for today involved shifting and lived down to the stereotypical characteristics of shifting that put shifting on our list of possible garbage indicators. I'm sure there are good shifting novels out there, and I am also sure that in the course of August I will encounter a couple of them. I'm not done with this at all, but I have no idea what I'm going to move on to for tomorrow. I know tonight, what I'm going to read tonight, what garbage book I'm going to read tonight. I have no idea. I have to confess, like I mentioned yesterday, it did feel a little wrong, a little odd to be reading this in an ebook, even though 10 times more garbage is produced in ebook form than was ever written in printed book form. It is an absolute hive-ish breeding ground for garbage. So it shouldn't feel that way, but I associate trash books with cheap old mass market paperbacks. I shouldn't do that. So maybe I'll read another ebook for tomorrow's report. I will experiment tonight, and I will let you know. Thank you, BookTube.